beautiful to me. I need to get AV in here, but I think if I hit call, I'm going to end the call with you. I should probably know how to do this better. So, Kevin, you are the co-founder of Power Up Audio, right?
Yeah.
How did you get into the industry? Are you a musician or?
Right. So my co-founder, Jeff Tangsock, and myself used to work at another audio studio, and it was kind of very factory oriented. Like, get your stuff done and move on and never look back, and like, don't love your work, and all this stuff, you know.
Right.
And so we left there, did our own thing with Power Up Audio, and that's why we were able to do things like put a crazy language into a game. Because Andy Schatz is like, sure, why not? Prior to that, yeah, I kind of played music my whole life, like piano and trumpet, and went to school for music composition in college, and then took an audio engineering course, and then kind of fell in love with like audio for video, like post production, and then realized that I'd been playing games my whole life, so why not work in games? You know, marry those things.
That's awesome. Let me. Hopefully, I don't just hang up on you. Let me try to get AV in here. Huh? Oh my god, this is terrible. Okay. Can we... Let me invite you to a server real quick. Sorry about this. I think I know the solution.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so take that Discord server invite and join that voice channel. Alright. I think we're good now. Sorry about that, guys. I thought I'd just be able to create a call at Discord with 3 people in it, and I guess not.
Okay, this is working though, right? I'm good to go?
Yes. AV, are you there, my man?
Yes, I am here.
So, I love a lot of the games that Power Up Audio has done, man. Into the Breach, Darkest Dungeon, Crypt of the Necrodancer, obviously Tooth and Tail. There's a lot of great titles here. I'm really hyped you guys are working on Tunic, man. I got to play that at TwitchCon 2017 a little bit, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's been coming along. We're showing it. We've been showing it all over. I mean, it's been kind of the same build for a long time. Like, if you play, I think we've made a bit of progress since the TwitchCon build in 2017, but yeah, it's mostly like the demo exists and it's doing its job, and it's like one guy doing the majority of the game. Like, if you mute the game, it's one guy. It's crazy.
Damn. It's crazy.
And he's like, either he puts more time into, you know, fleshing out demos, or he just makes the damn game. So he's kind of opting to do the latter.
Right.
But it's coming along. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and Darkest Dungeon, man, I feel like that's one of the games that the sound and the music really defines it. I mean, that's not a game you want to like mute and watch Netflix while you play it. You know what I mean? Like, you want to turn the lights off, crank up the sound, and it's really immersive, man. I've always thought that was really impressive about that title.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I mean, it's pretty cool. It's a very streaming friendly kind of game because of the roller coastery kind of aspect of the gameplay. Like, your emotions are toyed with a lot as a player.
Right.
And you know, people, they can like name their characters. There's like a lot of reason that Twitch, you know, loves Darkest Dungeon, and it's definitely very very heartwarming to like hear the audio cranked up in a stream. You know, and they're not listening to like the Linkin Park or Avril Lavigne or whatever. They're like listening to the actual game soundtracks. It's a nice change, especially when people have been playing it for like hundreds of hours. You know, and they still want to hear the soundtrack. It's nice.
Okay, before we get started, I gotta put you on the spot, man, and ask you 2 questions. First question is, besides things that Power Up Audio has worked on, what's your favorite video game soundtrack or album? And then second question is, what's your favorite just band in general?
Okay, so my favorite video game soundtrack has been and will likely forever remain Total Annihilation by Jeremy Soule.
Nice.
There's a lot of good options, obviously. There's so much good game music out there. Like, you know, we're doing good work, but like, holy crap, there's a lot of talent out there in the industry right now, and there has been for some time, and even in the past or whatever, right? But Total Annihilation, holy crap. Jeremy Soule, if you don't know him, he also did like Oblivion and Skyrim, and his portfolio is just dumb. Like, he's worked on so many amazing things. and he wrote the soundtrack for Total Annihilation when he was like 21 or something.
Jeez.
And it's just extremely good. I can still just put it on and listen to the full half. It's only a half hour long, but it's amazing. And then the second question was band.
Yeah.
Right. So the music I tend to follow, like I keep up to date with, is drum and bass. It's like drum and bass is kind of my genre of choice, and my mainstay there, my favorite band is probably, or producer, whatever you want to call it when it's electronic, is Camo and Crooked. They're a duo from Austria, and they're doing stuff. They're the kind of thing where I'll hear a new track that I've never heard before, and I'll know it's them. Like they just have this sound that's really, really their own, and it's pretty hard to do in electronic music in general.
Right.
Where kind of like you're kind of limited. Like here is, like you have like the or whatever,
right.
Or like with the D&B, it's like that's gonna be like, here you go, here's your framework, and now make it your own. It's super hard, and they nail every time. So
dude, I'm a drummer.
Yeah, I've seen them in
D&B is like super impressive to me, man. I listen to some D&B when I'm playing like StarCraft because it's just high tempo and energy. I like Spy a lot, Rini Levis. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but
yeah, sure. Spy's awesome.
Cool. Mr. Ultima, let me get you in this conversation, sir.
Hey, what's up? I'm here.
So how do you guys want to do the Vyeshal poetry contest? You want to talk a little bit about that, AV, since you were one of the judges?
Sure. I guess for everyone who wasn't familiar, the last few weeks we gathered poems from across the Discord, and we had 6 submissions. And it was both in English and Vyeshal, and people translated them. And we've been judging them the last few weeks, and we finally got a chance to talk about them here on stream. And to anyone who participated in the contest, we are giving out WHIP, and they can pick from a list of Steam keys, which I assume will be provided by Shoof, and Eel will be handing out these prizes.
So, Kevin, are you the creator of the language?
Yeah. So basically, I guess I can talk a little about that.
Absolutely, man. Bring it on.
So first, I'll make a small correction. So it's pronounced Vyeshal.
Yep.
Vyeshal. It's a great example of this thing I love doing in game development, and we call it a content for no one. So whenever, like, especially independent teams where it's like, one person, they're like, up to 40 people, like smaller teams, not massive armies of like Rockstar or whatever, right? When you have small teams, you kind of need to pick and choose your tasks carefully and make sure that you don't end up making this game for like 15 years, right? And so for stuff like this, where you're like, let's make a language that no one might ever care about, and it's not written anywhere, and it's only audio in the game, and it's like a riddle, but people would need to like look for consistencies across different delivered voiceover lines and figure it's so ridiculous. And when you're doing stuff like that, where like less than 1% of your player base will ever care, you need to be okay. Like before you even start doing it, you need to be okay with the possibility that no one will ever acknowledge you did it.
It's like you're putting in all this hard work, and then guys like me are gonna look at it and be like, "Oh, that's just gibberish, right?" It's like, no, there's actually foundation to it.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is, so back, during development, before we even chose to do this thing, talking to Shots, and just the idea of trying to convey that this world is like this drunken, messy civil war, and there's like this crowd just, like stampeding towards the front lines, and it's so from an audio perspective, we had to try to figure out how to satisfy that checkbox, like that idea of like, well, how do you make it sound crowded and crazy and messy and so forth. And so we had all these units, and we're like, well, do they have voice? Like, they make the sound of their guns and stuff as part of it, but I mean, do they like, what do they sound like? And we didn't want to have it in English for a variety of reasons. Like, kind of it grabs your ear in a way that we don't want. it's much more relevant and productive just to like convey a feeling. So you're like, hey, go over there, squirrel, and he's like, got it. You know, like we don't need to say the word like, you got it, sir. Like we don't need to say that. They can just say anything, and the player will be like, okay, cool. They just like confirmed that order, you know. Or if it's a battle cry, it's like obviously a battle cry. Or if they're doing a death cry, it's like they're obviously dying, you know. So the context was like way more important, and I kind of pitched this idea like we we didn't want it to be like too Russian, because yeah, again, it's not Russia, you know,
Right.
but something that sounds kind of Slavic made sense for the tone of the game. So yeah, I just like I did a bunch of work on my own to kind of prototype this language. And this is like the one in game is like version 12 or something of the language. It got a lot of iteration.
Jeez.
And just pitched it to Andy and was like, hey, here it is. Here's some lines read. And he was like, this is pretty sick. It just sounds like you said, it sounds like gibberish to most players. They'll be like, what? I'll like watch some stream and they'll like repeat back what Hopper said. And they won't get it quite right, but they're like, it's cool. They still kind of latch onto that line, even though they don't know what it means, or even know that it means anything, you know?
Right.
So it's worked out pretty well, and frankly, I'm pretty blown away that this poetry contest is even happening. It's like not just that anyone figured out the language at all, but just that they are now, you know, kind of claiming it for their own is pretty sick. It's awesome. So thanks a lot, everyone.
So AV, you're one of the guys that pioneered kind of decoding this, aren't you?
Yeah, that's correct. One of the first few people who said, hey, you know what? Some of these sounds actually sound like a language. So let's actually get a group of people together and figure this thing out.
All right.
And it was a whole lot of fun the first few weeks of decoding everything and figuring everything out. It was quite the puzzle, and I appreciate Kevin for putting so much time into it. And it's actually kind of funny. He spent many months on it, and then in just like a week or so, we were completely decoding the entire thing, which was quite funny when he came in and saw the amazing work we put in.
That's awesome.
Right. There was one morning I woke up and went on Discord. I don't recall if it was you, AV, or if it was Shoe Fly Pie. But someone posted like this long message. It was like, all right, I didn't sleep last night, and I think I got it figured out, guys. Like, what the hell? And I went through like it was this long like essay of a message, and he just like surgically like just like nailed it. Like it was all accurate. There's like these kind of like edge cases where like if you have this letter after this letter or this sound after this sound, then like we need to add a throwaway garbage letter and stuff. And like they just totally nailed it. I was like, yeah, this is how it works in this condition. I'm like, what the? How do they get this so fast?
That sounds like something Shoof would send you. They're probably Shoof.
It's ridiculous, man.
All right,
Anyway, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I gotta make sure I'm saying this right for my nerd street credit. It's Vyeshal. Is that close?
It is. So all like the Y-E, like whenever you see a Y in the language, it's always pronounced like yeah, like the consonant, you know,
okay.
not like a vowel in English.
Gotcha.
So with this, yeah, it's not like in Russian, you learn vowels by like learning like o and yo. So like bo, bio, be, bie, that kind of thing, you know.
Okay.
So with this, it's vie, yeah. And also in Vyeshal, the second syllable is always the emphasis. So it's Vyeshal. And that translates to mother.
Vyeshal. See, I'm a Southern Florida boy, so I look at it and I'm like, that's Vyeshal. All right, guys.
That's close.
So, I want to talk. I guess let's look at the first entry here. So these are kind of in order. Eels in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think this is one of the top 3. I think this was a special mention here. So, I mean, how do you guys want to do it? Kevin, do you want to just read them or swap off with AV? I can't. I'm not even going to embarrass myself here.
I think the plan was to just read the first and then talk about the others just rather quickly.
Oh,
yeah, mean, sure. I'm down.
Read the first place one?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
After, I guess, going through a few thoughts of the first 5.
Okay, you take the mantle here, AV.
Yeah, sure. So for poem 1, which is the General's Last Thoughts, we it was, in terms of language, a bit hard to get through, because if you're looking at it now, for those that are like skimming through the language, you can tell that there are quite a few, I guess, spelling mistakes. And there's actually a couple instances where words are spelled differently throughout, which is odd. And we did sort of give some of these poems the benefit of the doubt, thinking, okay, maybe they sort of skewed the language in their own way. But I think this one just had quite a few too many mistakes to give that benefit. But in terms of topic, it's quite good. And I do enjoy that they did try to get some very unique rhymes on each line. Yeah.
Yeah, trying to rhyme in Vyeshal while making sense grammatically in English is probably pretty difficult.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. We noticed with a lot of these poems, a lot of the people, I guess, started in English and then just straight up translated it to Vyeshal, which really threw off the rhythm if it sounded well in English.
Right.
So we gave a lot of points to those that it both sounded good in English and in Vyeshal.
Yeah, one thing I'll just sort of interject with. I know that at least one person on this call is not fluent in Vyeshal. So how the cipher works, like, it's not like a letter substitution kind of language. It's more of it's like a phonetic substitution language. So you take, for example, like that very first word, I, in the general's last thoughts, correctly translates to yo. So like I, that diphthong translates to yo. So whenever you have a word like night, for example, N doesn't change, T doesn't change, but the I in the middle of the word night changes to yo. So night would translate to nyot. So all of these things here, and there's also, when I mentioned that it went through so many iterations, like the language in developing it, it's because I just was stress testing the rules I'd set up, like, hey, when this, then this, when that, then that, right? And I'd stress test it by just translating like paragraphs of some novel. I just go crazy, just translate and translate and translate. And then eventually I'd hit some weird word where the letters in the word just come together in a way that I had not predicted. And I was like, wow, this is complete garbage when it gets to like goes to the meat grinder of Vyeshal. And I have to like put in some, like I mentioned, those edge case rules. So for example, the word lost, the next one, they translate it to lostie, and that's like that's pretty liberal as far as how that word should be translated. So L and R both translate to L, and then the S and T also don't change. So they got that right. As far as the vowel goes, it's a bit tricky because I'm basing it off of like my Canadian pronunciation of words, you know? So lost, if you said lost, if that's how you pronounce the word lost, if you said lost, then lost would be correct. But I don't know, like I lost the war, it's kind of weird. So I lost to yo, like aw changes to ya, so it'd be like liost, but liost feels gross, so instead we just add an O and make it loyost instead. And also, one thing I didn't mention yet is that I've totally neglected the challenge of making this readable for voice actors. Because like we're bringing in, like 20 people to read this stuff, and I can't just throw them. I mean, you all can see the language on the left. Like if I threw that at a voice actor, it'd be like, I'll do my best,
Right, for sure.
And the fact that this was a puzzle and we needed like phonetic consistency across different actors meant that I'm like, directing the session, and they'd say something like, like Delthius with like Vyeshal, and I'm like, no, it's not Vyeshal, it's Vyeshal, and we had to say it right, because if I had any hope, or if I was looking to give our players any hope of solving this thing, they had to have like relatively controlled source material to work off of, right?
Oh man,
so they
go ahead. Sorry.
Yep. I was just gonna say that I've been informed of a bunch of typos in the game's script, which is like, come on, guys, like give me a break. I'm translating 2,000 lines of dialogue.
Right.
And Yeah, they're totally right. Like there's definitely typos. Like there's 2 or 3 in the whole script I know of. And oh well. But anyways,
I don't know why that just clicked for me, but that's actually a really huge point, right? Because if the voice actors aren't doing it exactly right, how are nerds like AV Ultima and Shoofly like gonna do this? Because you're going just off the audio for the Vyeshal part, you know what I mean? And then you see the English lines in the game, so it's incredibly important that they pronounce that correctly.
yeah, there's it. So the language isn't really written in the game anywhere except for one spot. And do you guys even know about that yet? There's like
Yeah, I believe it's actually 2 spots. I think I mentioned this to you a couple months ago just to confirm, and I think it's Quartermaster referring to Hopper in her Vyeshal name is one of them.
no, that's not what I'm referring to. Like I guess
Oh.
that's kind of part of it, yeah, but that's not what I'm referring to.
Oh, then I don't know.
Because yeah, they do like pronounce the letters in the language kind of, like Cat Ocial, for example. But like, I might as well should I just spoil it?
The game's been out for over a year. I think we can have a spoiling if you want. It's up to you.
Yeah. So basically in the Quartermaster's hub, like in the campaign mode, right? Like where all the missions stem from.
Yep.
If you go to the very top right room with all the telecommunications and stuff, you can hear a Morse code signal coming from one of the machines, and that you can actually translate that Morse code, and there's like a bunch of different messages that are just like different messages from the team. So it's really it's kind of silly.
Did you miss that Easter egg, AV?
Oh yeah, I don't think anyone got that.
I think
so that's Morse code and then Vyeshal and then that's man.
Yeah, so that's the only place in the game where the language is actually spelled, but it's in Morse code, so it's still another step yet.
That's amazing.
But anyway, yeah, get on it, players.
Yeah, I think everybody's logging onto the campaign right now and getting out their notepads, man.
I don't even recall what the things say, to be honest. It's just like stupid jokes and stuff, but I don't know. Figure it out.
Okay, so AV, do we want to go to the next poem, or what do you want to do?
Oh yeah, for sure. Let's jump to it.
Okay.
I'm just gonna grab the water.
Sure.
Please, I'm stepping away for a second.
Okay.
Next poem is by, forgive me if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, Ruben Lead. And there was no title sent for this one, so I think we just used the first line of it. So it was called Searching for Glory. And there was only a few spelling mistakes in this one, but didn't take too much points off for this one. Followed a traditional rhythm and rhyming structure, and this one was quite good. Topic. So we had 4 rating styles, and it was topic, meaning, language, and style. And this one scored very well in terms of topic and meaning. And the style was pretty standard, but yeah, this one did very well.
I like it. So yeah. in Vyeshal, it seems like certain words are kind of translated by messing around with the vowels, as Kevin was talking about, and then other words are just totally different. Is that correct? Or, for example, like Vyeshal and mother, or is there actually still that vowel pattern to those words as well?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, like earlier, Kevin was talking about how you could translate like night, by changing the I to the correct Vyeshal letters and kind of keeping the consonants together. But I've noticed like other words like farewell, for example, or mother or civilized here, like they just look completely different. So maybe that's, well, learn Vyeshal then, Delthius, but like I guess there's got to be rules for changing up the consonants and certain I before E type things.
Yeah, I guess Kevin would be able to answer that better, but yeah, some of the consonants do stay the same, like N stays the same, T stays the same, but as you can see in Civilized, the M changes to V. And I imagine just throughout, iterating through the language, they learn that, some constants can stay the same because the words sound fine, and then others don't, for whatever reason.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm back, by the way.
Howdy.
Nice.
I was letting AV answer that question. I was curious what the answer would be. Yeah. So you're totally right, Delthius. So I mean, you got like some letters would just say the same and some would not. And the thing is, so I mentioned all the iteration of trying to figure out like how to form this meat grinder to put the English through and get Vyeshal out. And some versions just failed miserably, and it seemed like it was like a foundation, like a fundamental problem with how I was doing the cipher. And so there's a lot of like humming and hawing and like being in the shower, like, oh, eureka, I figured something out, and just figuring it out, but like just like figuring out like when you're not even thinking about it. But for example, like you mentioned farewell, so that F, I want to be clear too, it's not about changing like the letter, it's about changing the sound. So it's not we're changing F, we're changing like the sound of F is what we're changing. Right. So we're changing the F to a instead. So F changes to H and vice versa as well. If there's any H in this poem, we can see that, but I don't know.
So you would probably translate like PH the same way as F, for example. Is that what you're kind of getting at?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think AV said civilized, for example, like civilized. The C in civilized isn't like a C; it's just the S sound, right? Right.
Which would be different than a cat C or something.
Yeah, and so cat. Excuse me. So cat, like the K and T both stay the same. I left some things the same just to, to make the puzzle a bit easier, but also to make some words sound like real words in the game. Like, for example, the word town, T, ow, and N all stay the same. So the word town in English is town in Vyeshal. And so you'd have these kind of little pepperings of what seemed to be real words in the game. And that was kind of left as like breadcrumbs of sorts to be like, yeah, this means something.
That kind of stood out to me with Hopper, and when she says snacks, she says sneaks.
Yeah, exactly. Got it. Yeah, that's a great example. Yes, like farewell here, like the F sound becomes H, A actually becomes yeah, so that should be like hyal. And then R is L. W becomes like kind of the VW you hear in like bad Russian accents when like they order a water, it's like water, Right. So yeah, a W becomes a VW, and then L E becomes the E becomes O. That's correct, and then L becomes L. So Hoyevwol is how they spelt it. That'd be like farewell, like an E. It's kind of it's close. But nice. Yeah, overall, it's definitely very open to interpretation. Like dialects exist in the world, so I mean, it kind of makes sense that maybe some people would say things a bit differently. And I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but Hopper actually speaks in a dialect of Vyeshal. It actually isn't the same translation. It's like I put it into Vyeshal and then also like applied a dialect to it, so she says things a bit differently than the rest of the characters.
You can kind of see that in her English translation too. She's got a little bit of that lower class kind of accent to her,
Yeah, it's similar to saying something like, I mean, when you look at dialects, like a quote-unquote lower class dialect is often characterized by saying things in a way that's like easier and simpler. So something like going to versus gonna.
Right.
Like gonna is just easy, it's less effort, and that's kind of just a bit of a symptom of kind of a dialect like that style. So yeah, I did the same thing. I'm not sure offhand. I can't give an example, but like there's a lot of like equivalent examples of like going to versus gonna in her dialect.
That's awesome. All right, AV, are we ready for third place?
Wait. Oh, you might have skipped one. Vindication.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, you're right. Vindication coming up next.
So I can see for Vindication, that one sort of stepped outside the rules a little bit. It's a couple lines too long, so we had to unfortunately take off some points for that. You got to follow those directions. But yeah, this one, if you did read through the English, its topic is actually set around the colors of each faction. in each faction color gets sort of its own topic in a few of the lines. And we notice in this particular Vyeshal poem, there's a lot of like, I guess, language knowledge being thrown around. This guy definitely wanted to flex what they learned, and they did it quite well. Only several spelling mistakes in it, but they didn't do too bad at all. Scored a bit higher than the rest. But now we're getting into the actual first, third, and second place one. If you're ready for that.
I'm ready when you are, man. Let's get to third place.
Oh,
Cool.
heck
Let's
yeah.
jump.
Let's go.
Let's jump in the third here. Actually, okay. I was just making sure that we were probably just going to read this first one, and that's right. Okay. Yeah. Third poem also didn't have a title by Chris Hansen, but it is we said we used the first line, so it's with one fine shout. This one is, I had a feeling it's a topic dealing with the final mission because it talks about the mill toppling down, and then we've won all renown, and then but the pigs are coming. So it's sort of, we've won, we're the final faction left, and then but the pigs are coming to take down their only mill. So in terms of topic, it was really good. It's short and sweet, follows a very good rhythm, even though it got translated to Vyeshal. And it rhymes quite nicely.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, the cool thing about the way this language works is that if it rhymes in English, it'll rhyme in Vyeshal. It's all phonetic ciphers, right?
That's awesome. Yeah, it looks good, man. I like the poem.
Yeah, Austin Wintry, the composer of Tooth and Tail, actually did some lyrical writing, and then sent those lyrics to me, and I sent those lyrics back to him in Vyeshal, like my recording, saying how to pronounce it. So then he went and recorded with tripod. So all the the kind of battle cries when you begin a mission and stuff, and they say the slogan of the given faction. That was all kind of working together to to make the language and the music as one. It's pretty cool.
When he was, I guess, composing these songs, did he have any knowledge of the language beforehand so he could sort of work around that, or did you have to do all that?
So it was kind of a bit of a collaborative effort. So I mean, it's all Andy's like brainchild, right? So he had the idea of like, it's used like the faction, and they're all about, like Hopper's faction being the common folk, and like the quartermaster, and like everyone has their own motivations and stuff. So he kind of wrote the idea behind what these slogans should be, and then Austin worked with him, I think, to kind of craft those a bit more, and then and then I kind of translated them into the language. But for there's like some album that came out, I can't recall what it's called, but some different the guys at Hyperduck, I think it was Hyperduck Soundworks, they did a track that's all like in the language of the game, and it's pretty good.
Awesome.
They go a bit in the language sometimes, but overall it's pretty cool. It definitely captures the spirit of the game. So it's it's definitely, it was a very collaborative effort. Austin knew full well that there was meaning to the language. He knew that this is a tool at his disposal. So we had a lot of fun back and forth there.
Awesome. Is the album you're speaking of Who Becomes the Meat, or is that just a specific song that I'm thinking of?
That's the song I'm thinking of. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, I noticed. I think it came with a translation, or Shuv translated it. I don't remember, but I do remember that sort of what these poem writers did, they had to sort of remove some words or add in syllables to sort of keep the rhythm of the song going. And I assume that was something you took care of whenever you were sent lyrics to something. You would remove some words to make it sound just as good in Vyeshal as it was in English.
Yeah, because like there's no determiners in Vyeshal. Like there's no there's no a. So that's shown in here. So for example, like that third line of the second stanza there's like, but the pigs are coming. So yeah, pied bediege, that's but pigs. There's no but the.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, but pigs are coming.
Yep.
So that's kind of a good indication that Chris Hansen of Dateline ABC knows how to speak.
Why don't you have a seat right over there?
All right, cool. Let's jump into second place. That translates to Remains by I have no idea how to say his name. Jamais, I guess. Oh, Young Loke wrote this one. Cool. And we actually should have had a discussion about which poem to give second and third place, but we decided to go with this one because it sort of changed up how the rest of them were. As you can, it doesn't follow the usual rhythm and rhyme structure. It's sort of more as a sort of spoken as a, I guess, journal piece from someone on the battle lines, talking about what they've experienced, and has a ton of ethos to it. So we just had to give it second place. Very well done in terms of topic. Of course, has very nice style to it, and it was different compared to the rest. We enjoyed that one. And now on to first place, which, man, like I could tell immediately just from its first read and just from looking at it that it was quite amazing. It is a Snickery Lament by Pargan Intensifies. It's quite good in a lot of ways. It has by far the best rhythm to it because each line is 8 syllables when translated to Vyeshal. And they took the time to go in and, I guess, rework the language to sort of work in that way. If, for example, if you take a look at line 3, normally you would put an O between the BL and Blas because the BL sort of sounds really awkward to say, and the LY as well, or Bloyas. I mean, Bloyas. But that would add in another syllable, so it would become 9. So he decided to remove that to keep it 8 syllables. And then a sort of another liberty taken in the second from the last line. Kevin mentioned that there's no the when translating, but this person decided to add in the in a bit of a cheeky way to say, hey, you see what I'm doing here? I'm adding in the. And I sort of gave it points for that. I know it's not correct, but I found it very cheeky and funny that they decided to add in that anyway to sort of keep that same 8-syllable structure. And you could tell that they knew how the language worked, and it was quite good. Very proud of this one.
Yeah, it's super cool. There's definitely some. I mean, it's the blow yes thing. I saw it instantly, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. Like it was too. It seemed like his aptitude was enough that they should know this is blow yes. I was like, oh, okay, they do know. My bad. Yeah, it's funny. Like actually, the word that was an active. There was definitely some active decision making to avoid some words like translating into swears. And there's like a Russian swear that if you applied the rules of what he did for place there and instead translate the word plate, then you would have a Russian swear. So that's why.
Nice.
Yeah, and just like the word, that's why we also don't have the word that in the language. It's always this. It's always this. Anyways, yeah. So this is killer. Nice work.
All right, Kevin, would you do us the honor of reading it correctly in Vyeshal?
I can do my best, I guess. All right. So is Pargan here, by the way? Are they chilling in the chat?
I'm not sure.
If so, then kick ass. This is so cool, and thanks a lot for writing such an awesome poem. This is rad. Okay, so shall we? So first place from Pargan Intensifies. This is Snekulu Loyevont. Futolj vushes, shiafim ti gyo. Niot vil blias ti isk fevoyo. Et niot vil blias ti viak ink vost. Hiel vuna potal, vuna post. Shes yotol vil sol hie ujniot. Yentel yo haldot yo hiel siot. Voyet vuval shes pliagugia. Yemiabus vushieli voya. Ful yo vulb, yevung shes yevok. Yal pekyoj, sias viola, siebok.
Nicely done.
Wow, that was I enjoyed that.
That was good. I got the nerd chills, man. I'm gonna have to clip that, and if Pargon isn't here, we'll make sure to get it over to him. So you were talking a little bit about them taking liberties, I think, just to make the syllables line up, but overall, I mean, do you think they did a pretty good job translating this one, Kevin?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I put I'm not drunken, sorry. I didn't do it.
Oh my god. Did you do the squirrel voice?
Yeah, man. It's pitched up, mind you, so I can't just do it naturally, but
Right.
it's
that
was
was like exactly correct.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's pretty good, man. I actually I rewrote the whole poem on another page to like make sure I knew what words to hit. But yeah, it's super good. There's a lot of spots where, yeah, they kind of took a little liberty with there was one like yem ye boost, for example, that's of peace. So yem ye boost. There's no reason to put a yeah on the end of that first word. That often happens with I'm trying to think of a word. Oh, like friend. So friend, for example, is a great example of a word that we add a lot of like throwaway syllables to, just for the purposes of A, having a more interesting sounding word, and B, making it easier to pronounce for a voice actor. Those are the main reasons we added these throwaway syllables.
Right.
So friend, if you were to translate friend, it goes to hielongia. It's like a much longer word. And so, AV killed it in the chat right there. Nice. So, hielongia. So F goes to the H. The yeah kind of comes from nowhere, but just fr, like FR, becomes HL. And like, while you can say like huh, that's a thing you can do, it never happens in English. So to ask a voice actor to come in cold and pronounce like hlong, which would be the direct translation, hlong is definitely a word that you can say, but I can't realistically and reasonably expect to get a good performance out of 20 voice actors with a weird sounding language, right?
Right.
So instead, we just gotta add like hye. It's like hyelon is way easier to say than hlon. And with the G at the end, adding a syllable like that, it kind of prevents voice actors from being tempted to say like hlong, like an NG. So like HLONG is what it would be. So hlong, like the word long, right? But instead, what we want is like the N and G pronounced separately, like hyelonge, like nug kind of thing, right?
Right.
And so to push that, give them a yeah on the end. So hyelonge. That's way easier to like process and pronounce as like 3 separate syllables than trying to say like say hlong and get all the sounds in there. It's super hard. So yeah, so back to the throwaway thing, we add the yeah for hyelon and then the yeah at the end on gie, just to make it easier to say. So then if we then like reverse translate it back into English, that literal translation goes to like farenda. So it was kind of a bit more a puzzle for the solvers like AV and Shooflypie and such to like get words like farenda and be like, the hell is that? Just like realize that they were being given some garbage syllables here and there. So yeah, back to yim yeah. There's no real reason to put a yeah on the end of that word, because yim is easy to say, and there's like other like conjugation reasons where like the next word starts with a Y, so you might start with a weird letter, so you just add a throwaway like to make the transition into the next word make sense. Yeah, there's different reasons, but yeah, I mean, Pargan clearly knew that it shouldn't be there and just put it there to of becomes of a instead, and that's kind of okay. Of a piece, it's like of a piece. It's a little more grandiose and like dramatic to pronounce it like that,
Maybe that's their
so pretty cool.
Unique dialect, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's just Pargan's dialect, exactly.
Man, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, man. This was really cool. Big shout out to everybody who put in so much hard work figuring out this language and writing some great poems, like especially that last one. Like even the English translation was very, very nice. Thank you so much, Kevin, for coming on and doing this with us, man. I'm a big fan, like I was talking about earlier, of a lot of the projects you guys have worked on. Looking forward to Tunic. One thing, before I let you go, I just wanted to compliment you on, like, I think it's really fascinating in Tooth and Tail, and I think Darkest Dungeon does this as well, where the music, like, dynamically changes based on what's happening in the game. Like, that must have been a real pain to kind of program and produce and line up, right? I mean, I think that's pretty unique, that what your studio does.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of Austin, too. I mean, so Power Up Audio, like as a studio, we handle sound and music and voiceover, and we'll kind of do whatever of the above is needed to help on a project, right? We just fill in gaps in production. And so in the case of a game like Tooth and Tail, Austin Wintry was already slated to work in the project, and Austin's a good friend of mine, so I was like, heck yeah, this is gonna be awesome. It's always fun to be able to collaborate with folks that you know from around the industry, you know? And so he's a big fan of making these crazy dynamic, like kind of building block music scores where it swaps over and changes and things fade in and so forth. And so he basically gave me all these parts and then gave me a document that was like, here's how it should work. And I had to go into Fmod Studio, which is our kind of audio playback tool in the game, and set it all up and say, hopefully this works. And then of course work with Andy with shots to dictate kind of the logic and be like, well, here's like a parameter that says, you know, it's like a tier parameter and it goes from 0 to 2, like for tier 1, 2, and 3. And it gets knocked up a notch every time you build like the next, like as soon as you build a tier 1 or a tier 2 structure, then you'll never hear tier 1 music again in the game. So during battle and stuff, it'll change based on how intense it probably is, based on how far into the game you probably are. So it's kind of just making like small predictions based on the current state of the game and what a battle, like how intense a battle probably is. Like watching that thing with all the falcons and the owl and stuff and that replay before I came on the call here, like that was clearly a pretty intense battle because there is an owl present at all, you know? Like
right.
If there's an owl present, they've been playing for a little while, you know?
Yeah.
So we can be a little more intense. Yeah, whereas like a little skirmish between like some toads and some squirrels, like who cares? It's just it's over in 5 seconds, you know? So yeah, it's definitely it's a lot of work back and forth, a lot of collaborative effort. Darkest Dungeon, same thing with Stuart Chatwood. I mean, he killed it on the music, and there's a lot of just talking back and forth and saying like, how should this work, and let's figure it out, you know. But I mean, we're also, I want to be very clear, like we're very privileged at our studio to like have worked with these teams that give us such freedom. I mean, Andy Schatz just trusted us and was like, what do you think? And I was like, here's a crazy language thing. And he's like, all right, let's do it. And we did it, and it turned out great. And similarly with Darkest Dungeon, I mean, if you played Darkest Dungeon, sounds like you have plenty, Delthius.
Yeah.
There's the siren boss fight in the cove.
Right.
And she's this grotesque, but she has this one ability called Siren Song. Sorry, Song of Desire. And Song of Desire, like, it kind of briefly morphs her into this like beautiful, you know, stunning goddess. And you're like, oh, my queen. And she brings one of your characters to her side to fight for her, right? Mm-hmm. And in that case, the idea that the visuals are being messed with for these heroes, we thought like, oh, why not the audio also? So when she does that, we fade in this like vocal track of like this beautiful singing that is in tune with the music and is always playing, but it sort of reveals it whenever she does that ability. And we did that entirely within Fmod and didn't even tell the development team. And we just recorded the vocalist, put it all in. And then next morning we're like, all right, hey, Red Hook, the dev team, we're like, hey, go do the siren fight and tell us what you think. And they're like, oh, killer. So yeah, the dynamic stuff is great, but more importantly, we're working with teams who are game to do it, you know? So yeah, it's been pretty awesome so far, man. Thanks for noticing.
Yeah, one of my favorite, I hope I'm saying his name right, but Danny Baranowski, the guy who did the music for Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Yep.
I think it's no surprise, but the opera singer in Crypt of the Necrodancer, man, like that is so awesome. Was that?
That's all him, man, entirely. We had we had a brief moment. So the shopkeeper used to go like, oh, yeah, kick it, ooh, like every second beat instead. And then Danny came along and was like, I have a new idea. And we're like, all right, so we're doing this instead. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, the shopkeepers, it worked out pretty well. Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, it's always really cool when you see games that are really stylized and defined by the music and sound. I think back to like old school, like think of like Final Fantasy 1 on NES, you know what I mean? Where back in that day, like they didn't have to do that. You know, they had this huge score for an NES game where most other NES games had like a 15-second loop and that was it, you know what I mean? So things like that can really polish a title.
Totally. And again, that gets into the further you go down that rabbit hole of polish, the further you get, or the closer you get to that whole idea of content for no one, you know?
Right.
when you make something and no one's going to care, or no one will acknowledge that all that hard work you put in. But I love it, man. I mean, the big thing about content for no one is that it creates conversations. You know, someone like, I mean, there's a freaking Vyeshal University channel room on the Tooth and Tail Discord, right?
Right.
Like the fact that it existed and made, and people were like, oh my God, have you heard about this thing? Like there's a language in here, and it leads to people, like I'm sure AV has told more than one person about this language. And that's kind of that's the point, is that you make this thing that speaks to a certain kind of person and then leaves them being like, all right, I'm going to tell everyone I know about this, you know? So it's, there's a lot of examples of that throughout gaming history. And I think it's a good move. I think it just makes it makes games special, you know?
Absolutely. Where can people keep up with you, Kevin?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, where can people keep up with you? Do you do any, I think Shootfly's talking about a stream you do?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So thanks, Shootfly, in the chat. Yeah, so we do, we're on a brief hiatus until the new year. Took a little time off because I'm just tired and busy.
I feel you.
But we do a stream every Thursday at 4 p.m. PST. It's called Real Talk, as Shoof has said in the chat there. And we look at game audio demo reels that have been submitted by up-and-coming game audio professionals, like students and amateurs and enthusiasts and such, who want to get a little more traction going in their career and doing game sound. So it's myself and various... It has been Matthew Martinson at Clay Entertainment as well, who did like Mark of the Ninja and Don't Starve in these games. And I think in the new year, it's going to be mostly just me and with various guest hosts from around the industry kind of tuning in to give their opinion. So in the past, we've had, like the audio director at CD Projekt Red and the audio director on like Ken Levine's new project at Ghost Story, and like Ariel Gross, who did Saints Row. We had on Austin Wintry. We had on like Adam Gubman, who's done like 500 games. And yeah, so it's been a lot of folks who know what they're talking about and just tearing apart reels and saying, here's why it sucks and here's how you can get better. So yeah, it's pretty fun. I like it a lot.
That's great, man. That's definitely valuable for an up-and-comer to be able to get that kind of feedback from professionals, man. Really cool. AV, any final thoughts on the poetry contest?
Oh, man, it's... this is so crazy. Like, the fact... I told my girlfriend, who's like a lawyer in BC, just like a lawyer at the Supreme Court, has no connection to games. I'm like, yeah, so that crazy language I made, there's a poetry contest for it. I got to recite the winner. She's like, what the hell? Okay, great. So, yeah, it's definitely pretty crazy. Like, just I told some friends about this, and they're all pretty blown away. At a Christmas party last night, having some drinks, and I was like, I gotta take it easy, guys. I'm doing a Vyeshal poetry reading tomorrow morning. So it's pretty crazy. It's blown me away. Thank you so much, like all the people who took time to write, like A, learn it, and B, again, like claim it for their own and sculpt it to their will. It really means a lot. It's crazy. It's why I do it, you know? So thanks so much.
Yeah, big shout out to Illuminatus, man, for organizing this. Dude, you guys are awesome. That's it, man. You guys are off the hook. I mean, you're welcome to hang out with me and talk about some Tooth and Tail. But again, thank you so much, Kevin, for coming onto the stream and doing this for us. Community really appreciates it, and Tooth and Tail's got such a fun, cool community. So I definitely want to thank you on behalf of everybody else, for taking the time out of your day and hanging out with us nerds to talk about your language.
Nice. And no problem. I'm happy to be here. Happy I could help out, And I'll hang in the chat for a while as well. So if anyone has like any questions about anything at all, I'll just be hanging out. So feel free to ask.
Sweet. Okay, I'm gonna close the stream for probably like 5 minutes and let my internet reset because I am still dropping frames. So probably like a 5 or 10 minute stream break while I reset my internet, and then we'll get back to it and cast some more games. So thank you guys so much, AV and Kevin. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks a lot. See you
Thanks
around.
for hosting.
Yeah, take care. All right, that was a lot of fun. Let me... Okay, yeah, I'm looking in my OBS, guys, and I'm still dropping frames. So I'm gonna go ahead and just end the stream for about 5 or 10 minutes, reset my modem, and hopefully that'll fix it. That was a lot of fun, man. There's some really cool poems, so thanks everybody who was involved with that.